Hey y'all, it's me, Dree. So today the emotion cards that I pulled were silence, confusion, and shame. So let's get into this message. Right away, these three emotions feel like they belong together because I don't think that silence is the problem. I think that silence is what removes the distractions here. Because when somebody is talking, they can keep a story alive, can't they? They can keep explaining it. They can keep justifying away. They can keep finding reasons why things happened the way they happened. But when the talking stops and the silence comes in, silence doesn't allow that at all. What silence does is it creates space. And in that space, I'm getting that something uncomfortable begins to emerge here. Because the next emotion card that we land in is confusion. And I don't think this confusion is about another person. I think the confusion is about understanding themselves, understanding how they arrived at certain conclusions, understanding why they believed what they believed, understanding why something that once seemed so obvious doesn't feel quite so obvious anymore. Because confusion appears when certainty starts breaking down, doesn't it? It appears when somebody can no longer rely on the explanation they've always relied on. That's what I'm getting. Because after time, questions begin showing up. And this person is now asking themselves, how did I miss that? Why couldn't I see that then? And why am I only seeing it right now? And what makes this kind of confusion so uncomfortable is that it doesn't immediately provide any new answers. It simply removes the old ones. And unfortunately, I'm getting that this is where the shame begins. Because shame rarely arrives while somebody fully believes their own story. I'm getting shame arrives when that story starts falling apart, right? And when we move into this tarot, I'm getting that we're going to see exactly how this shame comes about. So let's get into it. We start with the Ace of Swords reverse, the Sun reverse, and the Hierophant reverse. So I'm getting straight away. This Ace of Swords reverse tells me that communication is blocked. It tells me that there is clouded judgment, redirection, maybe even hostility. I'm getting with this card that something isn't being seen clearly. And I think this is the foundation of that confusion we talked about. Not because the truth wasn't present. No. I'm getting that it was because this person was looking through a distorted lens the whole time. They were looking through a lens that caused them to focus on one explanation while overlooking all the others. And then that Ace of Swords reversed hits the Sun reversed. And immediately the energy shifts, because this Sun, even though it's reversed, it talks about blessings, warmth, optimism, and enjoyment. This is about a better state of being. And I think this is where that confusion really starts to kick in, because I don't think this person is questioning whether or not the Sun was good. I think they're questioning why they couldn't recognize it when they were standing in it. They are asking themselves, why couldn't I see the Sun then? Why am I only seeing the Sun now, after all this time? And I'm getting, because the confusion isn't about whether the Sun existed. The confusion is about why it wasn't recognized. And then this Hierophant reverse lands. And now we find the explanation they've been relying on. This is a unconventional path. Unconventional structure. This is an unconventional lifestyle. Doing things differently than expected. And what I'm getting is that this person believed this explained everything. They looked at the unconventional choices and thought, well, that's why. That's why things unfolded the way they did. That's why the Sun couldn't work. But the longer this person sits in the silence, the less this explanation satisfies them. Because now they've started to realize something uncomfortable. An unconventional path doesn't automatically erase the Sun. An unconventional structure doesn't automatically explain everything that followed. And suddenly the explanation this person has relied on for a very long time now, it no longer fully accounts for the reality. Which takes us into the second column and really lays on this confusion thick, because the more this person sits with these ideas, the more confused they get. I'm getting they're confused about everything. How to move forward, how to address it, how to overcome it. Let's see what the center column has to tell us. It starts with the Knight of Coins, the Five of Swords reverse, and the Empress. So I'm getting that this is where the story starts unraveling for this person, because this Knight of Coins tells me the collective never stopped. I'm getting that the collective links directly to this Sun, to better times. I'm getting that this Knight is what this person passed up for the unconventional lifestyle. And this Knight of Coins tells me that even though the collective was left, they never stopped. The collective kept building. The collective kept investing. The collective kept moving forward anyways. Slowly, steadily, persistently. And I don't think this other person expected that to happen. I think they assumed they knew where the Knight would end up. Right where they left him. But then this Five of Swords lands, and this card says adapt, embrace change, conquer self-doubt, and it says make amends, but it also says unexpected surprises. So suddenly this person is confronting a possibility they never fully entertained, and they're asking themselves now, what if I got this wrong? What if I misunderstood what I was looking at? What if I misunderstood the Knight? Because once somebody starts questioning a major conclusion, they naturally begin questioning everything attached to it. I'm getting this person wants to shift the energy. They want to change it up. And they want to make amends now with this Knight of Coins. But like I said, there's still an unexpected surprise that needs to arrive. And I'm getting with this next card that it does arrive. And what shows up is the Empress. And I think this is a moment where everything changes. Because I don't think this person expected to find the Empress. I think they expected to find the Knight they remember. But that night, they didn't stay a night. That Knight kept building. The Knight kept evolving. And eventually the Knight ranked all the way up until they became the Empress. And that creates a major problem here. Because the Empress shouldn't exist if the story this person has been telling themselves is fully accurate. Yet, here she is. Which means the explanation they relied on can no longer carry the weight they've been asking it to carry. And that is what pushes this confusion right into shame. Because now the evidence is sitting directly in front of this person. Not in theory, not in imagination. The evidence is sitting directly in front of them in their reality. And that brings us to the final column and what this shame is all about. I've got the waxing moon, the Four of Coins, and the Eight of Wands reversed. So the waxing moon, this gives progress, increase, movement. This is final steps energy. So I'm getting the realization that this Knight kept building and became an Empress. That realization creates momentum for this person. Because once somebody sees the truth, the natural instinct is to move towards it, to correct the course, to ask whether something can still be repaired, right? But then this Four of Coins lands, and this is all about conserving. This is a scarcity mindset. This is being a creature of habit and holding tighter to something. And I'm getting this is where the energy starts to contract, because understanding the truth and transforming because of the truth, those are not the same thing. This person understands the reality, but instead of expanding into the realization, they retreat into familiar behavior, into familiar patterns, and into familiar coping mechanisms. And I don't think these are healthy ones. And when they do that, this Eight of Wands reverse lands, and this is where the energy stalls out completely. This is lost momentum, delays, a lack of focus. This is this timing card coming in and saying time needs to be taken for alignment to happen. So the awareness is there. The realization is there. But because this Eight of Wands is reversed, this action, it never follows. And I'm getting that's what makes this shame feel so heavy. Because nobody imposed it. Nobody handed it to this person. Nobody forced it onto them. They arrived to the shame themselves through understanding, through comparison, through realization. Because once the distortion falls away, I'm getting this person can finally see what was actually in front of them all along. And I think that's why this message is, I think that's what this message is truly about. It's not mourning a person. It's mourning a version of reality. A version of reality that they were relying on. A version of reality that they were building decisions around. Only to realize later that the story they were telling wasn't complete. And that's why the shame feels so significant. Because the shame isn't coming from this Empress. No. The shame is coming from the contrast. The contrast between what this person believed and what was actually true. Because some realizations create movement, and some realizations simply create understanding. And this here, it feels like the second choice. Because this person is finally understanding. But I'm getting that understanding is all that they do. And that's where the progression stops. Meanwhile, the Knight, they never stopped. They took one step at a time. They learned one lesson at a time. Until eventually, the Knight leveled up and became the Empress. And I think that's the part this person struggles with the most. And that's the part that put them into the shame. Because the Empress is the evidence. It's the proof of who she was and who she became. And if she was the problem in the story the whole time, well, you can see why now there would be contrast. And you can see now that that contrast becomes impossible to ignore. And I think that brings us all the way back to the beginning where we started. With silence, with confusion and with shame. Because the silence removed the distraction. The confusion exposed the distortion. And the shame arrived when this person finally understood what exactly that distortion has cost them. I'm getting the distortion, this non-conforming lifestyle that they're still choosing. This is the culprit. This is why they're paying a price. That's the message that I have for y'all today. So if this one landed, then engage with my channel. Send me your energy so I can keep bringing these messages. And remember, where there is love, there is light. I'll see y'all again real soon.